So we're continuing our video on introduction to JSON, and what we're going to talk about now is how JSON is so useful for passing information from the client side back to the server side. So when you want to pass a complex set of data from the client side to the server side, which typically you would do by making an AJAX callback, we're going to show now how you can pass JSON data back in your AJAX callback, and then how on the XBasic side you can easily pass that JSON data and extract the individual property values from it. So if you look at this component here, you can see we've added a button here that says make AJAX callback. So let's go look now at what's going on in that button. So here's our button that says make AJAX callback, and we can see we've just used the built-in action in action JavaScript called AJAX callback, and we're making a callback that's going to be handled by a function called xb. So we're going to have to write that function. So there's going to be an XBasic function called xb that handles that callback, and then you can see that in the Genie here you can specify additional data to submit. So this is the data that is going to be submitted from the client side to the server side, and this data will be available inside your custom XBasic event handler. So the data that you specify in this additional AJAX data function here will be available inside this XB function. So if we look at the help for additional data to submit, you can see that what's expected over here is a string in the format of a query string. In other words, a bunch of name value pairs delimited with the ampersand sign. So typically what you would do in additional data to submit is type in a string, so it would be in single quotes, and then say var1 equals alpha and underbar var2 equals beta, which means that on the server side inside this XB function you would have variables. There's a variable called underbar var1 would be available, and underbar var2. But if you continue reading in the help here, you can see that instead of specifying an actual literal string over here, you can specify the name of an XBasic function, and whatever data is returned by this XBasic function will be sent back to the server. So you can see that we've specified that we'd like to use this function additional AJAX data to send that data back. So let's go now and look at this function additional data. So here's our function additional data, and you can see that all we're going to do in this function is read the value that's in that text area field. So we're going to read the value in the text area field, and what we need to send back to the server is a name value pair formatted like a query string. And the important part here is that the value part of the name value pair needs to be URL encoded. So inside the Alpha JavaScript library there's a built-in function called a5 AJAX build URL, and what that does is it takes this first argument as the name and the second argument as the value, but it properly JavaScript URL encodes that value. So if there are any, for example, ampersands or pluses or spaces in the data, those are going to get properly URL encoded. And then this additional AJAX data just simply does a return. So anything that is returned over here will be sent back to the server and will be available in the AJAX callback. So now let's go to the actual XBasic function called xb that's going to handle the AJAX callback. So let's go here and first, actually I'll just run it, and then we will debug into it and explain it. So I'll go there now and I'll click this button, and there's the response from my AJAX callback saying message from XBasic, the name of the second child is Joan, and so it's read that value over there. So let's pause now and then pick it up in the next video where we actually trace into the XBasic function that is handling the AJAX callback. So we're continuing now with our introduction to JSON, and we're talking about how JSON is useful when you want to send information from the client side back to the server side. So when you want to send arbitrary information that you've generated on the client side and you want to make that available on the server side in an AJAX callback. So let's go now to the XBasic function that handles the callback and just put in a debug1 statement over here so that we can debug into the code. Now recall that in our JavaScript function, in the additional data that was going to be passed back in the AJAX callback, we created a parameter called underbar additional data that's going to be available on the server side in the XBasic function. So let's go now and run the code here, and I'm going to go ahead now and actually I'll just change this to Jeff again, and then press the button to make the AJAX callback. So here we are in the event handler now that's handling our AJAX callback, and you can see that inside this AJAX callback is this object here called E. So if we open up E, we can see that inside E there's a property here called additional data. So let's just scroll down here and we'll find additional data. There we go. So there's additional data over there. So this got sent back as part of our AJAX callback, and you can see it's just a string of JSON data. So as we go through our code here, we're just going to create this variable called JSON, and then we're going to call the JSON parse function to turn this JSON string into an XBasic object. So now if we look at P, we can see that P is an XBasic object that has first name, last name, and then children is an array. And in XBasic, unlike JavaScript, the arrays are 1-based, not 0-based. So the second array item is actually got an index of 2. And here we're creating a string called message from XBasic, where we're going to read the value of the name field from the second item in the array. So there you can see it says the name of the second child is Jeff. And then we're going to create a JavaScript response to send back to the client. We're going to use the JavaScript alert command. But remember that when you convert a string into JavaScript, you need to make sure that you escape single quotes and any other special JavaScript characters. So we use the XBasic function called JSEscape to turn our string into something that's JavaScript safe, and then we send the following message back to the client. So there's our response from our XBasic callback, and we can see that this is going to be the alert message that is displayed on the client. So if we just go ahead and hit run over here and then go back here, we'll see there's the response from the server side XBasic. So what we've shown over here is how we took a string of JavaScript data, a string of JSON data over here, sent it back to the server as part of an AJAX callback, passed the information on the server using the JSON underbar parse function, extracted the name field from the second array item in the children's array, and then constructed a message from that and passed that back to the server. So in the next video, we're going to show how you can do the reverse, how you can send information from the server that's in JSON format, send it to the client, and then on the client side pass that JSON and then do something useful with the JSON. And what we're going to actually do is use the templating function in the UX component to create some nicely formatted HTML using the JSON data that we send from the server back to the client. So we'll pick that up in the next video.